According to Lulu and Corio, as students read across the multitude of websites representing varied perspectives, they must learn to evaluate the credibility of what they find and approach internet texts with informed skepticism. With that in mind, I'm going to be evaluating a website on the Pacific Northwest tree octopus today. I will be using two different methods today. I'm going to be combining Beth Phillips' method called the ABCs of a website. A is for author, B biased, C content, D date, and E editor. I'm going to be combining this with November's real method. I like November's method of the real because it includes looking at the URL and using it to backtrack. Overall, as I look at this site, I see a lot of cool graphics and even the habitat of the Pacific Northwest tree octopus. November tells us that sometimes it is difficult to get students to look beyond the colors and pictures and graphics to see what the content is actually saying. This is the type of site that we have here where students could get lost in just looking at how cool everything looks. Okay, I'm going to start now and go and look for the author, which is usually found at the bottom. In the center here, it tells me that this site is not associated with any school or educational organization other than the Calvinic University branch of the Wild Haggis Conservation Society. That doesn't sound like it would be too credible. Also, over here on the bottom, it tells me that address concerns to Lyle Zapato and that the website was updated in March of 2011. I think I need to know more about who Lyle Zapato is, so I'm going to go up here to the URL bar and do some backtracking. November tells us to back up to the last backslash, and this takes us to the home page, Zapato Productions Interdimensional. And if I look on this page, here, first thing I see is King Kong versus the tree octopus. That doesn't make me feel like this is too credible of a site. Continue down, see some other interesting things. Okay, and these definitely tell me that this is probably a hoax versus a credible site. And if I look over here, I see who is Lyle Zapato. If I click into that, okay, we look at this, and just from looking over this, I'm going to say this is probably not somebody who I can rely on. I want to go back now to the Pacific Tree Octopus page, and let's go into sightings and see what we see there. That seems kind of interesting. And if I look here, can look at some photos, and looking at those, I'm going to say this photo definitely looks doctored. Therefore, I'm going to say that this website's not valid. It seems to be a hoax, and students should not rely on that information. Okay, as I reflect on this week's resources and the creation of the podcast, I have to say that I've come a 180 on understanding what I need to be doing in order to reach the Washington State standards, which require a student to evaluate the validity of sources. I've always thought that this was rather intuitive and not something that required direct instruction other than to look at propaganda and identify that it is biased. Now I can arm my students with specific strategies to evaluate the reliability of internet sources. I would like to share these methods with my colleagues and come up with a district-wide method such as REAL or the ABCs. As I reflect on the creation of a podcast, I must say that I was out of my comfort zone, but found that it was actually something I can easily do. I can see using it to create mini lessons on computer skills. The podcast could be on anything from how to search the internet to how to use MS Publisher. November states that creating podcasts is a creative way to reach learners and tap into a technology many young people already enjoy outside of class. Quoro also suggests using podcasts for short comprehension lessons that specifically deal with the unique qualities of internet text. I feel armed with a whole new set of resources this week.